Good afternoon everyone, welcome to FutureScape Virtual. This afternoon, we're really lucky, we're here at Matt and Cam's business in Rosebank. So far we've met them 3 times in their offices and every time the office has changed. But on a really good point, every time the office gets better and better. We're in a fantastic environment here and it looks really, really good. So just very, very quickly, a little bit of an introduction about Rosebank, when you started, how come you two got together and knew each other.
Well, that's hard to do a quick version of that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the whistle stop is Cam and I met when we were 11.
Right.
I always get this bit wrong. 20, I'm going to say 23 years ago.
24, 25.
20 something years ago. We were best friends since. We got to a point where we went our separate ways to university. I went to university to study landscape design. Cam went to go and do sports science. And we ultimately ended up, myself running my own design and build practice, and Cam working in the family construction business. Eventually, we kind of saw the wood for the trees, and it made sense to join forces and create design and build practice.
It was a project that I was running, a construction project I was running, where the client was looking for a landscape designer or a landscaping company. So we introduced them to Matt, and it was the client at the end of the whole process came up to us and said, if you don't do it now, just keep it in the back of your mind, but I strongly believe that you two should work together someday. Yeah. So just bear in mind. And that property was called Rosebank. Right, okay.
Hence where the name.
Hence the name.
And how long did it take them to set the business up from that conversation?
It was 2011 was that project, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it's quite a long time, actually.
2015 was the formation of Rosebank, and 2016 was when Matt and I set it up as a singular business for ourselves at that shop front in Richmond.
Okay, and so Matt, a small design and build your own, was it, in terms of a landscape beforehand?
I started, I did my first when I was 17,
right.
And that was I think like a lot of people start just playing at it really.
Yeah.
It was for my parents, and it came to a point where they needed their garden doing, and it made sense for me to do it. I'd always been fairly hands-on, and my grandpa bought me tools when I was a kid, so we were always tinkering around and building things. So I built theirs, it kind of snowballed, and then I realised if I do want to take it seriously and make a career of it, I should probably go to university or study something.
Yeah.
And so went to university and confirmed that was the career path.
And what did you study?
Landscape design.
Design.
Yeah.
And where?
Nottingham Trent.
Okay. Good.
I had a very good time at university.
I was going to ask if you learned anything, but I guess
that you could argue one way or another, but
yeah.
I think, not in an arrogant way, I think there's no better education than experience itself, and because I'd done 3 or 4 years just learning on the job and learning from others, I knew a fair bit before I went to university, or I certainly had a good starting or foundation to it all. University, as I said, I had a very good time there. Whether or not I learned a huge deal, I don't know. You could maybe question, but
you were good at throwing yourself into the deep end early. It was a case of saying yes and figuring out afterwards. And I think that's kind of translated a bit throughout both of our careers. I think your experience on building sites with me when we were teenagers. And
so your family business was construction?
Yeah, my family business was construction, construction and development. And so I went to Loughborough Uni. Everything that I did was towards having a career in rugby in one capacity. Fell out of love with that deeply at university, and kind of came out the other side not really knowing what I wanted to do. So I went back into the family business to figure out what I wanted to do with a career. Fell in love with construction again. Threw myself in the deep end doing construction management, went back to part-time college to learn the kind of official way to run construction sites. And then, like I say, met with Matt and changed the career path completely.
So was your plan originally to end up running the family business?
Yeah, that was the whole succession plan was based around me. So it was it became a little bit of an awkward sticking point where I didn't really I was falling out of love with construction, not because I didn't love the industry itself, but because I actually loved landscaping more. So as soon as that became something that I was building with Matt, that just became my focus. I really enjoyed the creative process and taking it from the beginning right the way through to the end.
So the family business is still going?
Family business is still going, yeah.
And there's no, how do they feel about you leaving and setting up your own business?
Yeah.
It's also quite interesting, isn't it? Like, for yourself, it's better to create something and build your own business than it is
I think
take over.
Ultimately, as gutting as it was for the family business, they want what is best for me. And this has proven that it's been the best decision I've ever made.
So jump forward to 2016 when you officially became Rosebank Limited. How did you split the workload and who was going to do what? I guess was it you two and then a sub team, or?
Yeah, I mean right at the start it was me and Cam off Cam's sofa. That was the reality of the first few weeks, maybe a couple of months in business. And in very, very basic terms, it was my background is primarily design, Cam's is primarily construction, and therefore there was that split kind of naturally happened, and we had an overarching view on the business. That was it.
Yeah. What sort of jobs were you working on? What sort of size jobs were you designing? Where was the design?
I would say at the start it was massively eclectic. From, I think because of the experience and the reputation we had, we were getting really nice projects. And by nice I mean £500,000 and above contracts, anything down to probably £25,000 projects, so big range. And I think that's something that we've developed moving forward, is targeting the right end of the market and focusing on the projects we want to be working on. So it's just taken a massive turn from, as Cam picked up on earlier, saying yes and dealing with it and taking lots into honing that down, refining it, and focusing in on what it is we think works for us in the business and inspires us.
How did you just decide where you were going to pitch the business? How did you work out where it was going to be, what sort of projects you were going to work on?
I think that was the easiest decision for us, wasn't it? We always knew that the end of the market we wanted to target was the high end, people of high net worth. With bigger budgets comes much better opportunity to be creative, to deliver something that looks incredible. And I think my history in construction was always at the high end of the market, so just knew it well, knew it was the best opportunity for us. So I think when we became just two people building a business, we knew that we needed to kind of rocket launch ourselves into that market. So we set ourselves up in Richmond, which is an affluent area. We took a big risk on getting a shop front, but confident that kind of visibility would attract inquiries. And once you attract inquiries and you convert them to jobs, your portfolio just builds and builds and builds and builds.
How did you get the confidence of the people to give you those jobs in the first place, though? For two youngish lads to set up their own business,
I think
in quite a competitive market, in a
Cam's
competitive
very
area.
charming.
honestly, I just think inherently as personalities, we're confident in our abilities. So we might be young, but I'd say we're experienced for our age, and that's because we've both got experience in throwing ourselves into the deep end and just making it work. And I don't know, I think we're hyper competitive as well, aren't we? We want to be successful. Whatever we do, I want to get to the top.
There's a lot of talk in the industry about the next generation and you leading the way as big companies. A lot of sort of respected landscapers and designers. So Rosebank, they're the ones. How do you think you've created that? How do you think you've got that buzz about your business?
I think just focusing on what we need to do. So there's lots of really, really impressive designers and design and build practices and contractors in their own right, but we try not to worry about what anyone else is doing. We've got our own agenda, our own goal, and we focus on it. And all that is to be the best out there. That's it. It's as simple as that. And I think as long as you can instill that in the rest of the people in the business and everyone buys into that, then you're onto a winner. And for us, it just keeps.
Don't you find? I think because we don't really focus too much on everything that's going on outside of our business. I think with that, it always comes as surprise comments like that. So that kind of feedback drips back into us on occasion, and it kind of takes us back a little bit. Like, I appreciate we get to work on some incredible projects, but I don't know.
You're quite good at it, your PR exposure though, and milking it in a way of sort of pushing yourselves forward. And I'm looking at Matt there because I guess
do you
on
think
TV quite often.
I don't think we give it. I don't think we give it enough.
No.
I don't give it enough. I think we've just started in terms of PR and marketing and advertising. We don't. I think we do hardly anything.
Yeah.
If you take, probably Instagram is our best, is what we do for exposure,
Yeah.
and we have absolutely no content compared to most people. We've got, we hardly put anything out there, but what we do put out is quality.
Yeah.
Like, they're exciting schemes. So I think when we do shout about it, we make sure it's worth shouting about. Everything else we just crack on day to day, get our heads down and make sure we're working to the plan.
And what about RHS Chelsea and things like that? Because that is a very good way of pushing your business. And
Yeah, there's no doubt that's always been the shows will always be a great way to promote the business, raise your profile, but I've always struggled to see any tangible direct inquiries or direct projects from the shows.
yeah.
You hear of the odd story where some rich chap showing off to his missus buys the garden, or something like that might happen, but we've not been that fortunate. But yeah, I guess in terms of profile and visibility, yes, it's fantastic, and you can't deny it.
Yeah.
When was the first one? When was your first?
2014.
And did you do that as you or as Rosebank? How was that?
It was when Cam and I first got together within the family construction business, and that really was a great example of just winging it. Yeah. I actually admitted at one of the FutureScape events that this was two suit bigs. The first time I'd ever been to an RHS show was the first day of our build at Chelsea. Right. I'd never been. I mean, we'd obviously never exhibited at a show.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we'll always do moving forward, is surround ourselves with people that know more or who are better. And for us, the only way we could have delivered that garden is with the contractors we had worked with for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And Cam and I laboured with when we were kids.
Yeah.
And again, they'd never built a show garden before. We just turned up and did what we did.
That was the start of really kind of just saying yes, knowing there's a good opportunity, and then giving yourself no choice but to work it out.
Yeah.
Honestly, he says that's the first show he's been to. I think that was I hadn't been to a garden centre willingly before that day. I just got dragged around when I was a kid, my mum and dad going, God, this is boring, can I go see the fish?
Yeah. And then it then went on and you got Harry as a garden. That's, again, must have helped in terms of sort of your profile. And
yeah, I think so. Whenever you're in the public eye, whether it's magazines, TV, social media, all of that helps.
Yeah.
All of that helps kind of, I suppose from an outsider's point of view, it maybe puts you on a pedestal. But we don't worry too much about that. We're just focused on, so Chelsea, for example, it's much, the PR and the things that surround the show are kind of there on the side, and that's a bonus to it. That the focus is deliver the best possible garden we can, and everything else will come as a result.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the PR and marketing that comes from it, that's a byproduct. We never kind of look at an opportunity at Chelsea and go, yes, this is going to be incredible exposure.
Yeah.
We look at it and go, this garden is really exciting. This is a really incredible brief. I'm absolutely buzzing at the challenge.
And do you look at it as this is how we can make profit from it, or let's not lose any
if you're
money?
looking at Chelsea, if you're looking at show gardens as a way to make profit, then for me that's the wrong attitude to go into it with, because I don't see that it has such a knock-on effect on other areas of your business that any profit you could make from that, you're probably going to suffer elsewhere because it's so all-consuming. And also when you work for charities, you've got a moral obligation to be really competitive with how you're pricing it. I just think our prime motivation is the challenge and the brief.
Okay, and so if we jump forward now then, so 2020, third office?
Third office,
fantastic and lovely.
Yeah.
What's sort of behind this move then, and what are you getting here that you weren't where you were before?
So this is, since the first one, this is the first move where we're off the high street, and it's done deliberately and set that way because I guess at the last place we were getting a lot of people that were coming in and taking up a lot of time, which sounds awful, but for us, we want the team in here and ourselves to be as free and creative as we possibly can be, and therefore keeping the clients outside the office and organising appointments outside the office was, for us, the best way to do that.
Yeah, I just think the business, every time we've made a move, is because the business has matured to a point that that setting is no longer applicable.
Right.
So our previous offices attracted inquiries, but just the wrong type of inquiry for us.
Okay.
The previous office
For where you are now.
exactly too low value.
Yeah.
And this one's much more about our team. It's about us as a company, us as a brand. The other one was let's invite clients in and let them come in and interact with the team. This is more about creating a setting that everyone wants to walk through the door, is excited to get into work because of their workspace, and I think it does that.
It was a great atmosphere in the previous office, but even day one here was like a new lease of life for the business.
And still now, I mean, we're going through, it's a tough time for everyone with COVID and all the rest of it, but when people come into the office, they're skipping in. They're absolutely buzzing to come in and do the next day of work, and it's a really good environment to be part of. To have this open plan office where we can all dip in and out of the various projects that are going on, and everyone knows what's happening. It's really exciting.
So how do you structure the business now then, and what's the sort of setup, and what's your role, and how does it differ?
I don't think that has changed much really over the years, has it? In that, broadly speaking, Matt's in charge of design, I'm in charge of construction, but together we're just in charge of driving the business forwards onto bigger and better and more unique projects over a wider area. But our hands-on into the nitty-gritty of each of design and construction respectively has got less. We have more of kind of an overseeing.
But have you both got the same goals and the same ambitions and working at the same pace that you want to develop and grow?
If anyone ever tapped into our phone calls, they would be so bored by what me and Matt talk about. It is just, we have, it might only be a short commute to work. It takes us between half an hour and 45 minutes in the morning. And I know I'll see him in half an hour and 45 minutes, but we're talking, right, what's next, what's exciting, how can we get this one over the line? We just love it. I just find the process of building a brand unbelievably exciting, and the fact that we're so well aligned on it means you just hype each other up constantly.
And what happens though if there is any conflict or there is something that isn't quite right? How do you overcome that, and how do you...
I'll let you know when it happens.
I'd say in 4 years there hasn't been.
Yeah.
We know each other. We're too well aligned and know each other too well for that to happen.
Yeah.
We're not naive, and I think if it ever did come about that we didn't quite see eye to eye, we would just talk it out. It's as simple as that.
Because sometimes when you have a mind of a designer and a mind of a contractor, it's slightly different in terms of, especially in terms of maybe...
I agree. I agree, and I think that's true of if you treat them as separate entities.
Yeah.
But we're so amalgamated now and so galvanised as a pair that actually we don't really see it like that. If we were forced to write down on paper what our roles are, then you'd see design, build, and us looking after the business. But actually, Cam is, on some days, he's more involved in the design than I am, and on others, I can be involved in the construction. We both have this overarching view because in our experience and in our view, it's the best way to deliver the design and build service.
I think it would be a real detriment to the business if we took an attitude of that's design, I'm not dealing with it.
Yeah.
And same with Matt. I think I could go into a design meeting and I could be involved in a creative talk with complete confidence.
Yeah.
And the same that Matt can go onto a building site, onto a construction site and speak with complete authority and knowledge. I think the fact that we've got those interchangeable skills means that from the top down, it's, like Matt says, it's a galvanised business.
I understand that, and it obviously shows through, and spending time with you, you can sense that there is that jointness and togetherness. But what in terms of, is one of you more involved in sort of profit and loss? Is one of you more in charge of making sure that the account system, one of you more in charge of the HR issues?
Yeah, so I'd say I spend more time on the administrative side of the business, like more of a kind of like an MD role, and then there's Matt, who, in terms of building relationships with architects, project managers, he wins a hell of a lot of business. So I think we found quite a nice role in that. But then on the flip side, I will build relationships that bring in a lot of work, and Matt will jump in and certainly having a look at the financial side, you're super hot on that.
And in terms of the staffing, and how many staff have you got now working for you? How many are based in here?
10, soon to be 11.
And what are they? Are they designers? Mainly?
Designers,
landscape architect, contracts manager in here, bookkeeper,
visualiser.
How quick is that growing?
Really quick.
Yeah.
Well, if you take the company as a whole, we've gone from, as I said before, Cam and myself on his sofa to big shiny office, and as a company maybe 22.
Right, okay. And when you say 10 coming on 11, does that mean you've got another person coming in? In what role?
Designer.
Okay.
Landscape architect.
Yeah.
Okay. And who? Can you see?
lovely female.
Okay. Is the balance male and female then?
We for ages we were people used to come in and go, you need to get some women in this company.
Right.
No, it's a good mix.
We've now got great. It's awesome. It's a really good environment. It's young and ambitious, and they work at a furious pace. We built a team that just love being busy. Nothing worse than 20.
How does it work? Do they have their own project that they're designing?
Yeah. So
just an overview.
We'll review the schedule across the entire company every single week. So that's design, build, accounting every other week. That's a kind of separate issue. But from the design side, the inquiries will come in. We'll qualify them with one of our lead designers, and then Cam and I will sit down and we'll allocate who we feel is the best fit for that potential inquiry, and they'll lead from the start all the way through.
Yeah, I think that designation of project depends on quite a bit of criteria. So what's their current workload? Where does their skill set lie? So if it's a small project, is it for someone a bit more inexperienced? If it's large and complicated, might go to one of the landscape architects.
Yeah. And in terms of when you're looking for a designer then, are you looking for somebody that is like you and has got the same sort of ethos and the same kind of style, or you're trying to have different elements?
I think in terms of ethos, exactly the same. As long as they're ambitious and they want to do the best possible job they can, or work on the best possible projects going, that's really all that counts. In terms of style, no, we've always said there's not a set studio style,
right? Okay.
And that plays into our hands quite nicely, because every single brief and every single client is completely different. So I truly believe that we don't have to have a Matt Keightley style in here, because we can answer the brief through quite a diverse range of styles. That's not really a problem.
And how much do you work on your own brand as a Matt Keightley, and how much is Rosebank, or how much is it, like for the RHS you're an ambassador, but as you, rather than as somebody representing Rosebank?
That's a tough one to answer. I never think of myself as a brand or my name. It's about the company, and it's about Rosebank.
Yeah. How do you feel when Matt's obviously getting a lot of publicity?
Yeah, great. It's great for business. It's an unbelievable, it's an unbelievable source of inquiry. Yeah. I think what's really great, what's happened over the years, is that he's obviously attracts some really exciting briefs and schemes and size of work, but actually Rosebank as a company and the work that the other designers are putting out attracts its own type of inquiry. So it's not necessarily people writing in saying, "Oh, I absolutely insist it's Matt Keightley that designs my garden." They just want a scheme that looks amazing.
And all the designs that get commissioned, are you building them as well, or do you give any?
We don't do all of them, but I don't even know what our percentage for conversion from design to construction is, but it's high. It is high. We go in with complete confidence that we're going to take a design through to construction. If we want it, the attitude is we're going to get it, and when we don't, which doesn't happen very often, we're gutted, because and it comes back to being competitive. Once we're in, that's it. We're fully committed, and we'll do everything we can.
And if you don't get it, what is the main reason? Prices, or what's the main reason that you wouldn't get the?
I think price, or annoyingly a lot of it comes down to landscaping naturally follows construction of a main project, and they run out of money. And so sometimes the job gets squeezed so much that actually it's no longer a job that's appropriate to us. and sometimes we're honest and say, actually, do you know what, you're a much better place to go to someone else where they probably offer you better value than we can. Sometimes we just cannot get it down to a price point that the client is willing to pay.
And by increasing the number of designers, how are you going to, and then let's say you win more builds, how are you going to manage the amount of builds that you might have then because of the amount of designers you've got and the amount of contracts you're winning?
Say yes and deal with it when it happens.
Figure it out. I think because we've built quite an exciting business which works on exciting projects, I back us to entice people to come over to us and work for us. I think we surround ourselves by a good network of subcontractors. We're open with clients in that if a task requires a specialist trade, we should use a specialist trade to execute it, because I think general landscapers are fantastic at a certain level, but you lose when you're a jack of all trades and master of none. You lose a certain element of quality, and our business is all about quality from design through to construction.
I guess that's another thing I'm thinking. The bigger and the more you expand, the more people you have, the more projects you're involved in.
Yeah.
How do you keep that consistency of the quality?
It is recruiting at management, basically at management level. So ensure our foremen are really good. Are really, really good. They are. I've worked with some of them since I was 19. The other one is Matt's brother, who obviously is like the most loyal company man you could wish for. And then our contracts manager, Dean, who's got just an incredible track record. Is phenomenal. He's hungry for more work, and he's just so on it.
And I think that the quality comes as a result of the loyalty of the guys. We not many, if any, have left us, and the fact that we retain them means they understand very clearly what our expectations are in terms of quality and the finish of the product. And
I said to you earlier, Jim, that I think we've been pretty good at when we've recognised that someone's not quite the right mould for the company, then we need to move them on. And so we've done that, especially of late.
As a two of you, do you find that going back as the business getting bigger, you get less involved or less into the detail? And how do you feel about that?
I do, and it bothers me sometimes. It bothers me that I can't design as much as I'd love to. The drawing board goes weeks without pen to paper sometimes, and that bothers me, because that's why I started. That's the real passion for it. But the thing that gets me through and tips the balance is I get just as excited about the business and pushing that on and developing the brand, that actually you can't always have it one way. And so
it is quite a balance though, isn't it? Because the reason the business is successful is because of you two and the way that you do it, and then as you get bigger you sort of have less time and you have to rely on more people. And it's trying to get that balance of, and like you're saying, in terms of you actually do less of what you enjoy and more of what you have to do as running a business.
And it's tough, but I guess for me, the way I look at it is I just need to grow up. It's if you can't have both things. If I want to doodle all week, every week, then I'll go and sit in my bedroom and do it. But I don't. I want to push this business on, and therefore I have to accept that I'm gonna pass on responsibility, and I've come to accept that now.
I think that's tough for both of us. That's made a hell of a lot easier by the people we surround ourselves with. Like everyone is so reliable. We just can rely on them to do their job as we would want it to be done.
So what's an average size contract now that you're doing as a design and build?
Average size. The problem, I don't know what I'd say is average, but smallest schemes we're working on is really going to go down to about 80, 90,000. Okay. We're on 3 schemes at the moment of $250,000, another scheme about to start of $750,000. So the range is huge.
And how many projects would you have on the go at the same time?
We tried to do 4 kind of medium-sized domestic. So that will be 100 to 200, 250,000.
I think the average, if you took a snapshot now, the average is probably 300,000. And on the design side, the design side, it's flat out, which is why we're kind of discreetly recruiting.
Discreetly.
But I think, and probably other businesses do the same as us in that you try to have one monster project that runs along in the background, and then you're stacking the others up over kind of 3-month periods.
And how much of it is it 90-95% domestic, or is there more commercial coming in?
It's shifting a little bit.
Yeah.
I would say previously it's probably been up as far as 90-95% domestic, but it's probably 70-80% domestic, the rest public realm.
And do you see that as an opportunity to grow?
Yeah, definitely. The thing that's attractive about the public realm stuff is, well, twofold. One, from a motivational point of view, there's the opportunity to create a legacy and leave a project that, and this is one of the attractive bits about the show, of course, is you're not just delivering for one client, you get to be critiqued by the members of the public, and lots of people get to experience and hopefully enjoy the space. And the other is, and it's quite an interesting part of the business, is dealing with our clients involved and working for a main contractor or someone that isn't emotional about the space. It's more of a business transaction.
So when you're pitching for business, are you pitching it on the design? Is that still the thing that you think people are going to buy into, then support it with the company and the reputation, or is the company reputation and then the design?
It's a combination, and rather than pitching so much or tendering for work, we're really quite fortunate that they're coming to us because they want to use us.
So how are they getting to know you then? How have you sort of got that, the incoming business coming in? Is it recommendations from people you've done other gardens with? What's the...
Again, just a mix, I think. I think there's a lot to be said for appearing in magazines, and that kind of side of PR. It's making sure that you deliver on every single client as best you possibly can to the highest quality, because one project can turn into 10 depending on whether they move or they recommend you to friends, and that's always been the best way to get work, is referrals.
I don't think there's a great secret to it, really, is there? You need to be visible in the right areas. Right, so if you've got vans on the most expensive road in London, you're going to attract other inquiries to the most expensive road in London. Like Matt says, if you're in national publications month on month, and I think a lot of it's about relationships. We build, I think, really good relationships with some great sources of work, and providing you keep delivering to those relationships.
So those relationships you're building with landscape architects, property developers, architects?
Property developers not so much, because I don't know that they necessarily want to invest that much in the landscape elements yet. I think that might change. But yeah, architects, project managers, family offices for kind of rich families. Build some quite nice relationships there.
Okay. You're saying you're quite astute and knowing about...
For us, it's regardless of which part of the business, it's about quality. So we know good value, but actually we're loyal to various brands and companies depending on what it is we're using, and that comes as a result of the quality of the service and the product we receive back.
I think we'd be a bit hypocritical in that we're more expensive than other companies out there, but we believe we're good value because of the service and the product that we provide. And so if we didn't apply that to our suppliers, I think it just wouldn't translate in what we provide to our clients. So we will pay premium prices for a premium service or a premium product.
And just on that pricing then, so how do you benchmark yourselves? What sort of companies would you benchmark against in terms of in your pricing and how well you're doing?
To be honest, because we don't pay enough attention to what other companies are doing. We don't enter that many, well, if any, tender processes, do we? We kind of have an inkling of what the going rate is in the industry, and we pitch ourselves.
So if you were asked to tender, would you?
It would have to tick a lot of boxes outside of just profit, I think, for us to do it. Because there's a hell of a lot that goes into a tender process. So we're hugely in demand in negotiated work, which is kind of the golden goose. That's what you want to you want to do. So to then enter a tender process, I think it would have to be a really, really exciting opportunity. one that I thought would it would like, elevate our business into another market, or it'd be amazing PR, or for an incredible cause. And
that's the same on the design side. We every so often, very occasionally, pitch for design work, and they're very, very rarely to do with the finances involved. It's more, I have to have that project, and I'm the best person for it, we're the best company for it, and we're going to get it.
Yeah, because I think we used to be, well, no, we are really strict about not doing design work up front to try and win a project. We believe that we can show enough evidence of what we're capable of without actually having to put pen to paper to win the project. But there are some opportunities that come through that are just so incredibly exciting that we just go, do you know what, we will do that. We will do it at cost to us. Design process might not make money, but it's too good an opportunity to deny.
Okay. So I've got two more questions. First one, then, how do you create like the sort of the Rosebank ethos with your staff, and how are they all bought into what you're trying to do as a business?
Okay, no, you go first. I'm interested.
I think we create this team around us because of the product and what we're able to deliver, and it comes down to, you go on our website, you see it on some of our paraphernalia, you see Rosebank, inspiring gardens expertly crafted. And I think if you can get everyone, certainly for us, if we get everyone thinking about that very, very simple catchphrase, that's what we're all trying to deliver and what we're all pushing for, it's really simple. It really is quite simple.
Yeah, I think there's probably some companies out there they'll bring staff into a meeting room and they'll say, right, today we're going to learn about our ethos and I want to make sure you're all on board and this is what we're all about, and we'll do a presentation, and it becomes really prescriptive. I just think we do not need that, because passion breeds passion. And I think the fact that we come into the office and I think we're positive guys, we are visibly and audibly excited about every inquiry that comes in, every small win. We're not shy about getting excited about it, and I think if you can create that kind of atmosphere, it becomes infectious, and I think that happens from the top all the way through.
Okay. And then the final question I've got is, before we open up to the audience, is what's the future then? So what, 2 years, 3 years time, how many more offices will you have? How many more staff will you have? Anything you've got in the pipeline that you'd like to share?
Well, I think we haven't got a business plan, have we? We haven't got something written down which we check back in on. We just keep driving for bigger and better projects, more exciting projects.
What do you want to be? What's the?
Don't know.
I
Who
don't
do you
know.
look up to and think, well, it'd be great? Maybe not even in the same sector, but
I don't, and that might sound awful, but I don't look at other companies and go, I want to emulate them. I want to be the next so-and-so.
Did you feel like 50 people was where you want to be because that means you'll be doing this? Does it mean you're actually quite happy with the sort of size you are now and just do some really top-notch jobs?
I think the quantity of staff and number in the company isn't necessarily a focus or particularly of interest, I have to say. For me personally, it's more if I could work on, this sounds awful, if I could work on 1, 2, 3 jobs a year, but they were the most incredible jobs on the planet, not just in the UK, because we do a lot of international stuff, I'd be happy. I've got no interest in jumping on that hamster wheel and trying to churn out jobs just for the sake of doing stacks of jobs and covering a massive overhead because you've got stacks of that. Doesn't interest me at all.
I think I don't have a target for staff. I don't have a target for turnover. What I would do is, I think we can safely say in 2 or 3 years we will be bigger, with a considerably bigger turnover. If I follow the pattern that we've gone through, and like our passion and our drive has not wavered over that time, so we will continue like that. I think the moment we know we've gone too far is when that passion and drive hasn't filtered through absolutely everyone in the company. If that stops and we stop delivering quality and we stop working on exciting schemes, then that's when I think I know we've gone too far.
Okay, I did lie actually, I've got another question. How good are you at moving yourself away from work and taking a break?
Terrible, I'd say.
On a day-to-day basis, bad, because we live and breathe it. So for the last 2 weeks I've not slept because I can't stop thinking about it. So I'm bad in that regard, but I would say I'm very good when I take a holiday or some weekends, that's for my girls and for the family. I can switch off and that's it. But when it's impossible it's impossible to switch off, I think, when something exciting comes into the office, and immediately it becomes a bit of a competition with yourself and with the guys you're around, that we're going to get this, and you have to, I think, in order to convey that passion, that enthusiasm for it, you almost have to live and breathe it. That's the way we deal with it.
I also think our social circle, because obviously we're best pals and we've got a really close group of mates around us, and our families and our friends have been there from the start, so they've literally been on this journey with us. So they live and breathe the passion that we've got. They want the best for Rosebank. They're excited by every new development. Yeah. So even when you step outside of the business and into a social circle, people still want to know about it. They still get excited about it on you. So it's hard to remove yourself from that. Like, our wives are incredible, aren't they? They're so supportive. They put up with some terrible times. But they're as excited as we are about new developments.
Excellent.
Time and time again they are. They're like, go to work. Go and get it done, go in the spare room and do what you need to do.
Excellent. Good. So now we're going to just take questions from the audience. Thank you both for your time last week. One of the things that really comes through is I think you really undersell your ability and your business, because I think it's a very you business, and I know that the people in the industry who know are all talking about Rosebank. So you must be doing something extremely good and building your reputation. We've got 10 minutes and there's quite a few questions here, so I'll quickly fire through them and hopefully we can get through most of them. I think the first one is, how involved are you two on a day-to-day side? Like, Cam, do you go to every site? Matt, do you get involved in every design? On a day-to-day of the running of it, rather than the strategic side of the business. Frozen. Can you hear me?
Sorry, as much as I'd like. Have you got us?
Yeah, now you're back.
Yeah, I've just got. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
From my perspective, I don't get to visit the site as much as I'd like to. That's more for the foreman and the contracts managers. But I mean, I am involved in every single project on a daily basis. That goes without saying. It's kind of the same with you, isn't it?
Yeah, same with the design, really. And as we said when we met last week, the fact that we're sitting down as a full company, certainly in the studio, we're looking at every single project in detail and at length every week. It just so happens that on a day-to-day basis, we're all working on our individual items. So yeah, we have an overarching view most weeks for sure.
And I'm not overly keen on the terminology, but in terms of working in the business and working on the business, how much of time is in the business and how much time is on the business?
It varies, and we're constantly fighting that battle of wanting to step outside and work on it, and that's something we do work very hard at, I have to say.
I think we said it in the video, when we chatted to you, Jim, was that I don't think we've really got started in our marketing, our PR, really actually going after it. I think we've been guilty of working too much in the business over the past 2 years, but that is not unexpected. That's what happens, right, when you're building a business. It's just now that we're kind of getting the infrastructure in place, the more day tasks you can take care of. Matt and I now really looking forward to focusing on the overarching building of the brand.
And that's the exciting bit, Jim, is not having as much time as we'd like working on it now. The thought of that moment in time when we do have enough and the infrastructure is set, where we could potentially get to, the types of projects we could potentially be working on, because it's exciting as it is now. So we're pumped.
Excellent. Next one, and very quick. How many designers have you got?
There's 11 people in the studio.
How many of them doing design?
And let's probably break that down to 4 or 5 in design.
Okay. And what would you anticipate you'll have in terms of designers in the next 3 months,
if a handful of the projects that I can't talk about come off, then between another 3 and 5.
Good. What do you do when someone asks you to design or build an unsuitable garden with unsuitable plants that might not work in the UK? Walk away? How do you deal with that?
We, as professionals, we have to have sustainability at our core. And I know we spoke about it earlier, but there's no point as professionals suggesting something that has no longevity, and therefore we consider that part of our expertise and our offering. They're employing us for those reasons, our experience, and therefore we feel compelled and obliged to offer that information.
Okay. Another question here then. Do you have a design questionnaire document that you run through with prospective clients, the requirements, engages, etc.?
So a lot of our design team are basically briefed. They know the score basically, so they know the key questions to ask to work out whether this is a project that's going to be suitable for us or whether we're suitable for the client. So basically anyone can phone up, can talk to any one of our staff, and we'll be able to qualify. So there is a set of questions, albeit it's not really prescriptive on a bit of paper. Like we don't do a checklist as such.
Okay. And
at least it's more like a general conversation.
So would you build for another designer, and would you have another build company building one of your designs?
From my side, I currently am, and I don't know whether Mark's watching, but Mark's building one of my designs, and and I have to say that's probably the first time. But from a build side, it's something we've discussed, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I've said before, we've got the luxury that so much of our design work goes through to construction, and we're so in demand from the design front end that it just filters through to being really in demand in construction. So haven't really had to come across that hurdle too much. So as and when it does come up, I'll let you know.
Okay, good answer. What sort of lead times do you work to for new design projects, and are clients quite happy to wait?
Clients are generally happy to wait because it's less. The inquiries that come in are less kind of Google searches. They're more calculated and considered, so they're coming to us for our reputation, and therefore they're happy to have a conversation. But generally, I would say anything from 6 to 8 weeks would be fair.
That's the length of the design process, though, right? And it also depends on the type of project. We'll have projects where they're booking us in 18 months in advance. We'll have a project which will walk in. They'll call in and they'll say, I'm desperate to squeeze it in before Christmas, and that essentially just comes down to your schedule, whether you think you can squeeze them in or not. Depends on the size and the value.
Question here, I'm not sure someone's touting for a job, and you might have already answered it, but it's a very, very good, great insight. Would you have candidates, would you have staff working for you remotely? I'm not sure where remotely is in this stage, given the pandemic.
We do, but we do with the current team. But actually, there's nothing like being with the team in the studio. In terms of morale, motivation, and productivity, there's nothing better than actually just sit around the table and go through it all.
Okay. There's a couple more. What in terms of, we talked about the office staff. How many do you have out in the field working for you? How many projects would you have on the go?
So we try to have 3 or 4 projects running at any one time, and on every project we'll have our own employed staff, and then we'll supplement with various subcontractors if we need them. So we typically, I think we have 12 regular employees across those projects. Try to work in teams of 2 or 3.
Bring in like stone workers if you need them, or skilled people as and when you need them.
Yeah, exactly. If there's some really intricate joinery, you're better to get a joiner in than a general landscaper. We sell ourselves and our reputation on delivering the best product possible. So whether that comes from someone that's employed or someone brought in, it doesn't matter. You're delivering a product, right? That's what the client's paying for.
We just want to make sure that there's no disparity between the design of the build, the finished product.
What estimating software and project management software do you use, if you use any? Does that come? Can you hear or? Sounds like we've real shame, but it looks like we've lost both Matt and Cam. I'll get that question answered, or a couple of questions we haven't quite got through answered, and then we will email them back to you. But again, shame they're not here, but thank you very much, Matt and Cam. What a great company, and thank you very much for the audience. That's the final one in this stream today, so I hope you've enjoyed your day, and we look forward to seeing you all back here tomorrow morning. Thank you all very much. Good night.